Okay, let's talk about how to read a saxophone fingering chart. A fingering chart is just an image of the different positions your finger or your hand can go on the instrument to push things up and down, and tells you what notes to play. So oftentimes the fingering chart will have a picture of the note and then a little picture of where your fingers go, and it'll show some that are open and some that are closed. So I'm going to show you first a very basic fingering chart that you'll see, maybe a little more advanced but still basic, and then I'll show you a pretty advanced version. I got my pen right here. I'm going to start writing so you can see it. The first thing that you'll see are 4 circles like this. That is probably the most basic fingering chart that you will see. And what that represents, the circle on your left, kind of all by itself, represents the octave key back here. That one that your thumb sometimes rocks and uses. Okay? And then the other 3 are these 3 fingers right there. Those 3 keys right there. So if I saw that just the way it was with empty circles, that would mean those fingers are up. I'm not pushing them down. If I was to push or see a filled in circle like this, that would mean I would push that octave key with my thumb. This would mean that I push down my first finger. This would mean that I push down my second finger. And this would mean that I push down my third finger. So when it's filled in, that means the fingers pushed it down. When they're open like this, that means that the fingers are up. And we call that open if the hole is open. Because when you push that finger down, it covers the hole. That's how it works. Okay, so that's the most basic fingering chart you'll see. The next and pretty still basic fingering chart that you'll see 3 more down there. And you'll notice there's kind of a little space right there, right? So those are the next 3 fingers in your right hand. So I have my saxophone here, and I have my thumb, and then I have 1, 2, 3, and then those bottom 3 would be these 3 fingers right down here. Okay, and eventually, as we learn more and more notes, you'll use those right hand fingers. And this is what you'll see pretty often on a fingering chart. Is these. So let's say if we're just gonna make up a really strange fingering that isn't common. Let's say I had my thumb open, but I had my second finger down in my left hand. The top one is for your left hand, and my first finger down in the right hand, and my third finger down in the right hand. That is a strange fingering that you won't see. It's kind of a strange little note right there, but it's not a note that I know. But that would mean I would show that my second finger's down, and then in my right hand, my first and my third finger would be down. And the others, I'm not going to lift them really high when they're up. I just kind of let them rest, right? And remember, we always want our fingers, I'm going to use my knee to hold my saxophone because I don't have a neck strap on. We want our fingers curved. We don't want them flat or like this, okay? We want our fingers curved like that so they can move nice and quick, okay? So that is a pretty basic fingering chart. Now, let's draw a little squiggly line, and let's make a maybe more advanced fingering chart. One that you might see later on when you're really good at saxophone and you're learning all these crazy notes that you learn as you get older. So I'm going to show you all the different things. First and foremost, you might sometimes see some fingering charts do different shapes for different notes. The first one you might see is, instead of just a circle for the thumb, you might see like a little teardrop shape. And sometimes they put them in between the 2 lines. That still is the same as that. Same thing, just sometimes it's written different. And sometimes they might even draw the shape of it. And, because it's kind of a unique shape. So sometimes they're a little different. Okay, we still kind of have the common 1, 2, 3 fingers on the left hand, and then 1, 2, 3 fingers on the right hand. But now we're going to talk about some different things you might see. And I'm going to change my color. I'm going to make them light blue so that these are other keys on your instrument. The saxophone has so many of these different little keys that are used, and different paddles, some pinky keys, some of these. And those are all going to be represented by different things on a fingering chart. So we'll kind of work from the top to the bottom. Some that you might see that I'm going to write in blue are ones that kind of look like this. Teardrop shaped on the left hand. Those represent these right here, the palm keys. When you play those, you use your palm, kind of, and it depends on the size of your hand. But that's why they're called the palm keys. So those three would represent those right there. The next ones you might see, you might see a little one right there in between your first and second finger. That's one of those skippets that we talked about, or one that we don't put our finger on. And later, it's this one right here in between my first and second finger. And later on, you might actually even push both of those down with one finger. That's called the bis key, the B-I-S. And, that's one that you'll learn probably in 7th grade or your second year playing. Okay, some more that we're going to see. We're going to flip down to our right hand. You might see some little squares like that. 3 little squares. And those are these 3 side keys right here. Those are called side keys. And when you're playing, you would use kind of your big knuckle right here to play those. Okay? Those are the side keys. There's 3 of them. Then you might see, I forgot some of the left thumb keys. We're going to go back and get those right now. Okay? You might see some of these. I just said left thumb. I meant left pinky. There's 4 extra ones right there. And those would be our pinky keys right here. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's your left pinky keys. Okay? And I like to call those paddles too, because they kind of look like it. All right? Speaking of pinkies, let's check the right pinky keys. Some more half moons down here. Right? More pinky keys or paddles down here. There's 2 of them. Okay? Let's find another one. We've got one that might show up right here. Sometimes it's a little circle, like, I got my eraser going. Sometimes it's a little circle right there. Or they might make it kind of look something like that. And what that is this thing kind of right above those paddles. And what you'll use that for is sometimes you'll play the note F sharp with your second finger, but other times you'll play it first finger and push that down. It's called an alternate fingering or a trill fingering. You'll use it to trill or go back and forth between 2 different notes. And then the very last one you might see, and it's pretty uncommon, but it's this big square right there. And I believe that one's only for some saxophones that have that key. Your instrument probably doesn't have that key, even on the instrument at all. I know mine doesn't. And that's an extra key for one extra really high note called F sharp on the saxophone. So it's a really high note, and it's only on some special saxophones. So look at all of those. That's a lot of keys on the saxophone. But just, the most important one that you learn is this one. I'm going to put stars on it. The basic one. This is kind of your basic fingering chart. And that's the one that you should know. That's the one that you're going to use. This one is more advanced. And it's not as common for you to know right now, but as you get better and better, you'll see a lot more fingering charts with those things on them, and you'll have to know all those different keys for all those different notes. That is how you read a fingering chart.